Hello, my name's Iggy. I'm the Managing Director of Altech Batteries Limited, which is an Australian company listed on the Australian Stock Exchange. We have two exciting projects, the Solumina Anode project, as well as the Serenergy Battery project. I'd like to take you through the Serenergy Battery project. So what's the future of the grid storage batteries? So essentially, one of the challenges of lithium-ion batteries, I'm sure you know about, is the safety issues. These batteries tend to have thermal runaway and they tend to lead to fire and explosion. They generally do that because of overheating or physical damage or overcharging. And what the issues are is that in a lithium ion battery, there's a cathode and there is an anode. In between that, there is a flammable organic liquid electrolyte and a plastic separator. So when a battery catches fire, that is essentially what fuels the fire. And it's very hard to put out a lithium ion battery fire because essentially oxygen is generated at the cathode when the battery burns. So this is a big problem for the industry. The other challenges of lithium ion batteries is that they don't operate in very wide temperature ranges. So for example, if you are at 0 degrees, the battery actually slows down and you only get about 70% capacity at 0 degrees. And the reason for that is, again, the liquid electrolyte in the lithium battery. It becomes very viscous and it slows the lithium reactions down. The other challenge of lithium ion batteries is that the life of the battery is generally around 8 to 10 years. And the reason for that is the lithium degrades every time you charge the battery and discharge the battery. And so this is also a big issue going forward for grid storage market. We've also seen the insane price rises of the lithium battery industry. Lithium has gone up nearly fivefold in the last 2 years, and that is really putting a lot of pressure on the lithium-ion battery industry. The other thing is that the industry is concerned about cobalt as an ethical supply. So as you know, 70% of cobalt is produced from the DRC, and there are issues about child labor, and the industry is concerned about the ethical supply chain issues with cobalt. The other thing is that 90% of all graphite for the lithium-ion battery market comes from one country. It comes from China. And so there is a geopolitical risk associated with one country providing all that materials for the entire lithium-ion battery industry in the world. And then finally, copper is another issue. There is 2.5 times of copper used in an electric vehicle compared to an ICE vehicle. And a recent report has stated that there's not enough copper mines being developed around the world to even meet the electric vehicle forecasts. And that is besides the growth that is happening in the grid storage market. So my question is there a battery technology where the battery is totally fire and explosion proof? It operates in a large temperature range, a battery that can even outlast the lithium-ion battery and beyond 15 years, a battery technology that virtually doesn't have any lithium, cobalt, graphite, copper, and even manganese. And ladies and gentlemen, this is the Serenergy battery technology. The battery technology has been developed by the Fraunhofer Battery Institute in Germany, and essentially it uses table salt or sodium chloride, and essentially it is solid state technology. The sodium chloride solid state battery has no volatile liquid electrolyte. It's solid state. It uses a ceramic piece that acts as the electrolyte. It doesn't contain the flammable plastic separator. So therefore, there is no thermal runaways. It doesn't generate oxygen at the cathode end, and essentially it is fire and explosion proof. These batteries also operate in a very wide temperature range, right down to -40 degrees up to 60 degrees. And the reason it can do that is because it doesn't have that liquid electrolyte. It uses solid state technology. The battery itself operates at 270 degrees on the inside. It's totally insulated, so you can actually touch the batteries on the outside, and hence it's a bit like a mammal. It regulates its temperature, and it can operate in really very cold climates as well as hot desert conditions. So a battery that operates at a very large temperature range. Because we don't have any liquid electrolyte, the sodium ions don't deteriorate like the lithium battery. So the life of the battery is beyond 15 years. The elements that we use in our battery, as I mentioned, is sodium chloride, which is essentially table salt. Sodium is actually very reactive. It sits under lithium in the periodic table, and sodium chloride is cheap and readily available, unlike lithium, which is really rising in costs. We don't have any cobalt in the batteries. The technology doesn't require cobalt to increase the power of these batteries. These batteries are very similar to the lithium iron phosphate batteries. Our batteries don't have any graphite or copper. We don't have actually any anode in the battery. The battery is a self-forming anode. When you charge the battery, sodium ions form a molten sodium on the inside of the battery and then dissolves when you discharge the battery. So we don't need any graphite, or we don't need any copper as part of the makeup of the battery. So how does the Serenergy battery work? Essentially, we have a ceramic tube, and in that tube we fill it with sodium chloride and nickel metal powder. We have a positive electrode, and this ceramic tube sits in a metal canister. When you charge the battery, the sodium ions migrate through the ceramic tube and forms molten sodium on the other side. When you discharge the battery, the molten sodium dissolves. The sodium ions migrate back to the cathode end of the battery, grabs the chloride, and becomes salt again. So if we compare the battery types, the Serenergy battery against the lithium iron phosphate battery and the redox, as you can see, the energy density is very similar to the lithium iron phosphate battery. The energy conversion is also very similar, but you can see the cycle life is beyond 15 years. This is a big benefit for the Serenergy battery. Safety is very high, and you can see the capex is also very low compared to the lithium ion battery, and essentially a very low maintenance costs. If you compare these batteries against the lithium ion batteries on this chart, on the bottom of the chart you have a specific energy of the cell, and on the left-hand side you have the power of the battery. Our batteries sit in the middle, so they're ideal for the grid storage sector, where you need lots of energy and sometimes power to stabilize the grid. So the battery technology is ready to commercialize. The Fraunhofer Institute has spent 35 million euros in research and development in the last 8 years, and then they've spent 25 million euros in a pilot plant. So they have produced these batteries, and they are currently undergoing tests. They were looking for a partner to commercialize the technology, a partner that had land in Germany, a partner that has some background in batteries, as well as alumina, which essentially is the ceramic tube. And we were selected as the partner. So we have a joint venture with Fraunhofer Institute, where we own 75% of the project and they own 25%. And we're embarking on a 100 megawatt Serenergy battery plant in Saxony, Germany. So we are positioned in Saxony, Germany, the east part of Germany, and we're building this 100 megawatt Serenergy battery plant for the European grid storage market. And as you can see from the video, the layout of the plant, you notice that all the roof space is essentially filled with solar panels. So we are not only producing these batteries, we're also generating all our power, and virtually it is and able to put back into the grid as well. So what are the costs of these batteries? The Fraunhofer Institute estimates that these batteries are 40% cheaper than lithium-ion batteries. Well, if you think about it, there are no lithium, there's no copper, there's no cobalt, there's no graphite, and there's no manganese in the batteries. So essentially, it does make sense that our batteries should be cheaper than the lithium-ion batteries. We recently launched the 60 kilowatt battery pack, and essentially there are 240 cells of these in these kilowatt packs and about 100 amps per hour. The problems with grid storage lithium-ion batteries is that essentially they take quite a time to install these batteries. So if you're putting together 20 of the 60 kilowatt batteries, you have to install it on site and you have to connect all these batteries. So there are quite complex configuration and connection issues. Generally, the lithium-ion batteries have been noisy because they actually have cooling fans to keep the batteries cool. And that's been an issue with close to neighborhoods. The batteries take up a lot of valuable space. As I mentioned before, they require a lot of maintenance. We recently launched the 1 megawatt battery pack where we have installed these batteries in a sea container. And essentially, we can deliver this sea container and drop it on your site with a plug and play concept. So we can connect to the grid on your site within 5 minutes and provide 1 megawatt of power to your site straight away. And essentially, because our battery technology hasn't got any cooling fans, it operates in all weather conditions. They are essentially ideal for the grid storage market. Thank you for listening to us. And if you would like to reach out and discuss further on our Serenergy battery project, our contact details is on the website.